Close your eyes. Notice sounds. Sensations in the body. The presence of your visual field. And realize that all of this affects you. Perhaps not negatively, but all that arises is consequential. None of it can be truly ignored. You might get the impression that you can somehow ignore an experience that arose, like the birds singing over here, for example. I really can't stop but hear them. So everything that arises is important. We don't get to say no to any experience. Our consciousness is wide open to whatever is appearing. If an experience generates a thought that I don't want this or this shouldn't be happening, then that thought is a consequence of the experience that arose. Without the experience, you wouldn't have had the thought either. And what this means is that everything is interconnected, because your thought will also determine the next thoughts that you might have. There is a chain of sorts which is inevitable. And you might ask, oh, but can't one stop this chain? Stop thinking and change thinking into something else. But even that arises from previous conditions. And this is what is meant by the word conditioned in the context of Buddhism. However, there is also the word unconditioned. And what is unconditioned? Well, what is unconditioned has to be that which does not depend on the previous thing, the previous experience that arose. Thoughts are not that, because thoughts always depend. And reality at large also depends. One thing leads to another. There are laws of physics and so on. And to spend time on the conditioned is to spend time on the changing, or the impermanent, to use the Buddhist term. And that's okay. It is what it is. It's not going to become permanent somehow. It's not going to become unconditioned. What we can do is spend some time on the unconditioned as well. Rather than stay on the ride of or changing thoughts and emotions and wants and dislikes. And working towards what we want to happen and trying to avoid what we believe can't happen. So we can drop to the background of all of these things to see where all of this is happening. And that is meditation. To even while everything is arising and changing, to see that it's happening in this unconditioned space of knowing. The knowing arises regardless of the known. It is not the previous state of consciousness which determines the very existence of the next one. It determines the state. It determines the contents of consciousness. The experiences that arise are determined by the previous state. But the fact of arising the fact of existence, the fact of knowing, it arises spontaneously. You can't become more aware because of something that happens in awareness. Even if your senses are dull and you do something like get sleep or drink coffee and your senses become sharper and you feel yourself become more active, you can't become more aware. You were already fully aware of your dullness, for example, even if your senses were dull. Awareness was already pristine. So in this sense, the background of awareness is unconditioned, always pure, always clear. The common analogy is with the sky. Awareness is like the sky, always open, but it can be clouded, and yet the clouds don't change the nature of the sky, which is to be open and free. So it's possible to turn attention from the objects of awareness to this quality of clarity. And this is to know that you know, be aware of the knowing. And what this does is to turn you away, even if only for a while, turn you away from the changing, these experiences that arise and pass away. You turn away from them and their changing nature and towards this unconditioned nature of awareness. And in doing so, you can realize that anything that you want or don't want, all of these things are arising as clouds. A thought arises saying, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that, I want this, and so on. And maybe the thing that you want arises as well, oh, I'm having this experience, finally. And then it passes away and you might want to come back to it, and so on. All of that is arising in this changing layer. Another analogy is the waves of the ocean. And all of that are waves. And our mind tries to arrange the waves in a certain way, a certain pattern. Now I want a big wave. I want a small, smooth wave. And they're still just waves. And they arise. They are present for a moment. And they fade away. There really is no keeping a wave in place as much as we try. But all of the waves are still the ocean, invariably. Just like you can't keep a wave in a certain shape. You can't remove it from the ocean either. Even if you try to separate it, you take it away from the ocean, it's still seawater. So all changing experience has that quality of clarity which the context of awareness has. So there's stillness even in the movement. Okay, thank you.